Welcome to another episode, Wandering Minds Podcast. My name is Gash.
I'm Mike.
I'm Justin.
Our special guest today.
Special has been used to define me.
All right. So I have never met you.
Yep.
Heard about your weight loss journey, which is very incredible. You used to be, 630 pounds?
Well, it was 600.6. I'll never forget that 0.6. But yeah, it was 600 pounds August 25th of 2020. And that date will be in infamy in my head forever.
That was the peak. Is that the peak?
Yeah, that's the peak. And to be fair, I don't even know technically how accurate my scale is because not many scales go up that big for home use.
Yeah, true.
So once I get below a certain weight, I'm going to compare and see because I might have been up to 620 maybe.
Yeah.
But my scale, it was 600.6 was the max I ever hit.
Okay. Hey, so let's start with your childhood. Where were you as a child? What and because I want to progress to where you are now.
Right.
What was your childhood like? Your upbringing.
Yeah, I was raised in one of what I consider to be the most traditional senses of how people can be raised. I had both my parents my whole life, roof over my head, food in my belly, never had to worry about anything. I had a sister, so just a very traditional home. We were raised in the church. I was raised Christian.
Okay.
And I didn't really get into trouble. I mean, I grew up in a small town, so the only trouble was basically if you went drinking with your friends or something on the weekends, But I was a nerd, so most of my weekends were spent playing video games with my friends, and the kind of stuff you spend money on but don't get in trouble for.
Yeah.
And then sports has been a thing my whole life. My dad was into sports, my mom was into sports, and I was playing pee-wee baseball, pee-wee basketball, all those kind of traditional things.
Very athletic.
Yeah, and I was always a big person.
Okay. Define big.
So, you know how they do the team photos for the kids' sports and they're all just lined up? It was basically, there I am.
Okay, so you were tall, but were you also big?
Oh, also big, yeah.
Okay, now is this genetic?
Yes.
Okay.
My dad's side of the family struggles with obesity in a pretty big way. I never actually met my grandmother, who's, my dad's mom. And I think she died at 450 pounds and she was 5'6" or 5'7".
How old was she? Around about.
I would say late 30s, early 40s at the oldest.
Okay.
From what I was told. I don't remember a lot because I never, she was long gone before I was ever around.
She was young.
Yeah.
Okay. And obesity was probably a direct cause of her death.
Or
indirect, or I don't know how it works.
It was a big issue for sure, and she had mental issues as well that were preventing her from taking care of things. Obesity has been our whole lives. And as a kid, one of my least favorite days as a kid was they used to do public weigh-ins at school. I don't know if they still do that anymore.
Wow.
Or maybe it was just my school district because they wanted to shame you.
Yeah.
But, everyone, how much did you weigh? And I hated that day.
Wow.
Because all the other kids are coming in at 100, 110. I'm coming in at 150, 160.
Yeah.
I was over 200 pounds by the time I got to middle school.
Okay.
Which was great for when I wrestled briefly because there was no weight limit and I was above the next class. I never had to cut weight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was 15 going into 7th grade.
Wow.
And by the time I was a freshman, I was 250 or 260.
Did you have to deal with bullying at that time? I know you were in sports, most of the time you're in athletics, you're kind of you're part of the popular crowd, but so you did have to deal with bullying. Was it off the hand shit talk, or was it true bullying? Which I don't know that there's a difference because bullying is bullying, but do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. I think there is I think there's a difference in the intent, and it's a difference in who you're with and who's saying it.
Sure.
Because listen, my friends are going to call me fat my whole life because that's just how we are. I'm going to make fun of them their whole lives too. Whether that's healthy or not is a whole nother conversation. But
true.
But no, I did get bullied. There were a lot of, most of it is just names that people just always call you, no matter if you've asked them to stop or not.
Yeah.
Tank and Double Bubble. I don't know why Double Bubble, but those were names that I got called as a kid all the time.
Okay.
And, as I got older, I just, if you laugh at it, no one will laugh at you kind of a thing. Yeah. So I just kind of
like the big guy's always the funny guy because he's right?
Yeah. And I had to learn. So, when I was in grade school, I don't remember exactly what happened, but a kid like pushed my friend and then I kicked him. That kid went to the hospital.
Yeah.
Right. And so my parents ended up enrolling me in like karate classes and stuff. Cause it's like, you need to learn self-control.
Yeah.
Which I always thought it was hilarious. Like, I beat someone up, therefore you're going to teach me to beat them up better.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and not only that, but you were protecting somebody. But I understand.
well, the lesson in all of that was that I will hurt people if I'm not careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I, from that point on, was a very cautious person with my size, always have been.
Yeah.
And also as a result, very few people see me genuinely angry because if I lose control, like someone's getting hurt.
Like it's a rage monster type of thing, or is it just?
Well, I wouldn't say that I feel like it's a rage monster. I would say that, like for example, if you were to just walk over here and sock me in the face for no reason, I would need you to not touch or speak to me for a minute.
Yeah.
Like while I kind of collect myself, because if I react in any kind of an aggressive way, there's a potential for serious harm.
Yeah.
And that's been there my whole life.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I'm like hiding a rage monster, but
well, weight classes matter.
Yeah.
Weight classes matter.
yeah, I wrestled a buddy of mine. He went to Marines after when I went to college.
Yeah.
And I was maybe 285 at the time, and he was like 210. But he had trained jiu-jitsu and took all of the advanced classes that the Marines had to offer, and he couldn't do anything to me. Yeah. He got me in a pure on like rear naked choke, and I was like, black was coming into my vision, and I was on my back, and all I did was sit up and then slam backwards, and then he had to release.
Yeah.
So it's like, size definitely plays a huge factor in that. But yeah, I mean, sports were my outlet for that. You know, I was a nice guy, but after the whistles, and then I tried to hit the crap. Business. And that did my size with football, I think because of the athletics growing up, I was able to be a relatively healthy big boy.
Yeah. So let's stop there and discuss that for a little bit, because we had a podcast and we were talking about obesity, and of course we're not obese. We don't know. We have our opinions on it. So for me, it's like, hit the fucking gym, work out, eat right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how the genetics work. So my assumption is this is what you need to do to get better. Of course, not being there, I don't know anything about it, which is one reason why you're here. Yeah. But we made the comment, there was a comment about fat people, and it really, really hurt a lot of people. And we weren't necessarily talking about, because there is being big and fit. And so I see you in the gym. I see you going hard. Mad respect for that.
Thank you.
And I see a lot of other people in the gym that in their minds, they're fat. In their minds, they are. Right. I don't see them like that. I see them as healthy as fuck, strong as fuck. You know the gym, FS has some, it's a powerlifting gym. You got some of the strongest motherfuckers around here.
I made a joke to my dad that the gym is amazing. The support is unreal, right?
Word.
I've seen so many different people, so many different body types, and the love is just unreal. I did a lift the other day, and I was pissed at myself. It was the first time I actually deadlifted off the floor more than 100 pounds since coming back.
Dope.
I think it was like 215, and then there was like a 40-pound chain on top.
Hell yeah.
And I felt like shit because when I did the lift, it was so out of whack. It just, nothing felt right. Mm-hmm. And then the other Justin, you know him probably.
I don't know,
maybe. Well, he does the early morning lifts with me.
Oh, okay.
There's two of us there.
Yeah.
And other Justins, I refer to him. He just looks at me when I'm done. And he can tell I'm pissed. He's like, dude, do you remember you told me a year and a half ago you couldn't get out of a chair without assistance?
Seriously.
I was like,
see? Yeah.
But I didn't ask him to say that, right? Like, that's just the level of support that the gym has. But I did make a joke to my dad that, man, everyone there could be like fitness models. And there's like 2 fat people in the entire gym, and I'm both of them. Like, because, you know, it's just, there's a few of us that are more out of shape. But when it comes to the conversation about obesity and like getting out of it, I appreciate, yes, I'm working hard, right? I am still morbidly obese, and that's just like a clinical thing. Like, that's just a fact. And there is so much more to trying to get into shape when you are very overweight.
Yeah.
I talk a lot with like friends about what happened at the beginning of the journey, because we get in this world where it's like, we love the before and after pictures, but we don't love the work in between.
Yeah.
You know, we love celebrating people's successes and then just assuming that they had it easy. But my journey started with me not being able to walk more than 100 feet at a time without having to stop because I was in such immense pain that I could not carry on. Yeah. And literally 100 feet, stop, sit down for 10 to 15 minutes before I even felt close to normal. Wow. Get up, another 100 feet, stop. And I would do that 3 times in one day. And that was my workout. That was all that I did to start this journey.
Yeah.
It wasn't even until, I think the first time that I walked a mile consecutively was over a year after I started the weight loss journey.
Yeah. So meaning it took that long to get to that point.
To just be able to walk a mile.
Yeah.
And for the record, I was wrecked after that mile.
Yeah.
Like 2-3 days, I couldn't do anything for 2 or 3 days.
So where was the wake up call? What was the wake up call? And I mean, we can bounce in time if you want, but the journey you're on now.
Yeah.
Obviously you couldn't walk that 100 feet. From that point on, what was it like in your life? I mean, how did you, I don't want to say, I don't know why, but how did you get to a point there? How did you get to that point? And then at that point, was it like, fuck, did it just dawn on you, or was there apathy involved? Was it like, just fuck the world type of shit? This is me. I'm going to just,
the easiest way to explain this because neither of you have had to deal with like massive weight issues, right?
No, not massive.
The easiest way to explain it is kind of like what I've used this reference before, but like when women become pregnant, they give up certain things physically until they're after the birth because they just can't, right? Yeah. Imagine that weight gain spread out over the course of a decade of your life. So when I was peak fitness for me, I was 295 at 9.5% body fat.
Okay. Ooh,
so like nice. I was like, good. And I went from that.
Was that college?
Yeah, I would have been 21 or 20 at the time. So
college football era.
Yeah. Sophomore, junior year, give or take. And, over the course of 15 years, I got to that weight. And what it is at first, there's a specific thing for me that kind of kicked it off, but in terms of like, you just make the decision, like I'm going to take a break or I'm going to take it easy. And then things just keep piling up. And then eventually your body just starts getting used to the new version of you. And so there are things that I had to give up things, like for example, and this is just a small thing. Until recently, I have not been able to put pants on standing up. Mm-hmm. And like I would fall over. Yeah. Because I couldn't hold my weight up in order to do that. So I had to be on a couch or my bed, and I had to basically like slide it in, and it was a whole thing. And I accepted that. Yeah. Like after it got, because it's just, hey, life goes on. We're going to keep going. And there's a lot more like that, but it's a slow thing over time. And it wasn't just one realization. I like to refer to it as the come to Jesus moment, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it was accompanied by crying into ice cream, watching The Biggest Loser, right? Yeah. Or, seeing all these inspiring things. I don't think anybody gets that big without having numerous times where they say to themselves, I need to make a change. Yeah. The thing is that most people make sudden holistic changes. Like, I'm going to only ever eat green vegetables and I'm going to lift 7 days a week. And, and you do it, and when you're motivated, it feels great. When you lose that first day of no motivation, I can do that tomorrow, and then you're back into what set you off on the first place. Which is
the rut.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I had that come to Jesus talk like at least 100 times, and I can point to at least like 5 or 6 different times where I went to the gym and started lifting again, and I tried to change my food. And I even had one stretch where I was like, I lost around 50 pounds when I was with an ex-girlfriend of mine. Mm-hmm. And, but all of those times, including that time, wasn't for me. It was for other people. Yeah. It was to get my parents off my back, my friends off my back, for my, my girlfriend at the time. It was never for me. Yeah. And that day where I hit 600, I also happened to be flying out to visit my family. Walking through the airports at 600 pounds is something that it was horrible. Wow. It took me I landed in Atlanta, and it took me so long to get to the baggage claim that they had actually shut down the baggage claim.
Wow.
And there was someone standing like at the gate or whatever saying like, I'm waiting for so and so for their bag, you know. And I was like, how long has it been? And it was like an hour plus.
Wow.
For me to walk from where the plane let out to where the baggage is at.
Wow.
And don't get me wrong, those are like weirdly long distances, but like that shouldn't take that long.
Yeah.
And then that same day, and this is I don't think we've talked about this yet, but my mom had recently, she passed away in December 2020 from ALS.
Oh, sorry, bro.
I appreciate it. And so ALS, if for whoever doesn't know, is a disorder where you like lose control of your muscular system. And if it's a top-down onset, you have about 2 to 3 years of life from the first symptoms. If it's a bottom-up, it's about 5, I think.
Wow.
Most people might know it about Lou Gehrig's disease, is what it's referred to. And like the ice bucket challenge was for ALS. But she had it, and it was getting very close to the end of her life, and I wasn't able to visit a lot, so I took this trip. And on the same day that I had to suffer through that whole experience of flying at that weight, I had to also come in and see my mom in the worst condition like I had ever seen her in, and I just broke that night. Yeah, it was a really rough couple of days, and just thinking about all that. But that was that month and a half that I visited them was in essence the changing point, because I didn't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. Like I was just there to be with my family. Yeah, and it was one of the first times in memory that I didn't have responsibilities that like I had to get to. And so I just sat there and like I was trying to do stuff, but I couldn't. And the time allowed me to kind of reflect more on things, and I realized that, you know, I'm so bad off that you could argue that my mom, who at that point was 2 to 3 months away from passing away, was in better shape than I was with ALS. That's bad. And I just finally was able to kind of break down my walls of like, it's fine. And like, no, it's not fine. And then in that time when I had that space, my family had challenged me to start doing stuff. And that's when I started doing the walks. Okay. And there was one day where I just remember like, you know, if I had this kind of support to actually like push through this initial thing, I might be able to do this. Yep. But why am I doing it? And like I want this. Like it was less about I need to, and more about like, no, I want my life back. Yeah. And like I'm on the verge, like I was on the verge of death. Yeah. You know? And so the next day, and this is crazy timing, I was going out to do my daily walk, and my sister comes out like, hold on, mom wants to come out and say something. I don't know. And my mom at this point could barely speak. Like, you know, you lose your tongue control as well as part of it. So it becomes very mumbled stuff. And she hated being out after 1 o'clock because this was in Alabama. Muggy, awful. Yeah, September. So like the worst part of the mug. And she hated being out after 1. It's about 3 o'clock, and she rolls out. She's got this little like stupid hat on and like these little sunglasses on. She looks up at me and she's like, "Let's go, motherfucker!" And then just rolls forward and just, okay, we're going. Yeah.
Support.
And the combination of the day before, me finally like deciding that I'm doing this for me, and then my mom, who almost never cusses, like for her to roll out and say that, it was like, okay, like I don't have a choice. And it was extremely painful. Like I don't even know if I can put it into words. Like it was just every single day, it was just a constant, sharp, agonizing pain. And that's another side of the fat to fit journey for a lot of people that no one knows about, is that you guys have probably taken like a month or 2 off of lifting at some point, right? And then your first day back at the gym, it's like, woof, right? Yeah. Now make it so that the pain from that first session back lasted you 2 weeks or longer. And that's every single step feels like that. Wow. And so a lot of people won't talk about the pain because they seem weak in other people's eyes.
It's like a weakness. Yeah.
Right. I was bawling my eyes out walking up and down this street, and there's random people in the houses looking at me, and like they knew what I was doing. Yeah. But like there were times where like if my mom hadn't have been there with me in those first few days, I wouldn't have walked. Yeah. Because I was in so much pain. And when I was bawling my eyes out walking, she didn't say a thing. She just sat there. And every time we finished, she's like, "Good job." Yeah. You know? Nice. And it's like, so you have to have the support in my opinion. And you have to have the desire to do it for only yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I think people who are parents, you could argue that want to do it for your kids.
Yeah.
Or people who are married or, want to do it for your spouse. Maybe that's different. For me, if it was ever anything other than wanting to do it for me, it failed.
I think of any addiction like that, and I've had this discussion maybe with Cash, but with other people that, like with drinking. I'm an alcoholic when I drink, so I don't drink. But until I came to that realization, I always tried to quit for other people. It never fucking happened.
Yeah.
Never happened. It always went back to drinking. But the moment I decided I need this shit for me, done.
Yeah.
Light switch off, done.
Yeah. And it can't just be the words though, right?
No,
because
it's
and you can definitely attest to this from what you talked about it's not one decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's every single decision has to be in line with that reasoning.
Yeah.
And that's the other aspect is people who want to make the change who don't. I've had a lot of people come and talk to me about this since I started posting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of those people start and not do anything, right? And I don't judge them for that because I know how difficult it is, but you have to wake up the morning after your first lift or your first whatever and be like, okay, is my food prepped? Do I have my healthy dinner prepared for when I'm home? Am I drinking water? Am I going for my walks on time? Oh, it's raining. Can't do it.
Yeah.
No. Like you got to make that decision.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect at that. I've had weeks or months where I've gained weight over this journey, but the consistency has led to me being down 135 pounds.
Oh,
right.
Dope. Yeah.
That's a lot of weight to be down too.
Yeah. There's a guy I work with, his name's Kyle, and I refer to it as number of Kyles I've lost now. Yeah. Because he weighs 130 pounds. So
yeah. Well, and you make a really good point because like with, again, going back to addiction, it's the same thing where your mindset, you can justify anything. Addicts, alcoholics, sex addicts, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You justify doing it, not doing it. You make excuses not to do it. But you justify doing it. Oh, it's sunny. I want a beer. Oh, it's rainy. I'm going to have a beer. Oh, you know what I mean?
Game's on.
There's always a reason to do it, but you can't it's harder to qualify. Okay, this is why I shouldn't do it, even though there's more reasons. To not do it.
Well, in my work, they just threw this huge potluck. Mm-hmm. God, that kitchen smelled so good. The break room. I was like, and people, you should go try this. You should go try this. And that's one of the other aspects of losing weight that's hilarious is everyone wants to celebrate your success with food.
Yeah. A lot of people do that.
It's like, listen, I can't I had to tell one of my dad's friends because they wanted to take me out every 15 pounds. I'm like, guys, if you do that, I'm never going to lose weight.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the daily decisions. And then you had mentioned something earlier that I wanted to hit on, which was how we talk about fat people. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There's a big thing in the world about what is fat shaming or I've heard some people say fat phobia even, and just to say it bluntly, it does exist. People do treat you differently. Now, as a reminder, I was very fat as a kid, lost weight in college, was in the best shape almost anyone can be in college. Went back up to this, right? Yep. I've seen it from every angle. Yep. I've seen the healthy, I've seen the unhealthy, and people just treat you differently. It's almost not even, I don't even know if it's a conscious thing. I think that in general, people are afraid of what they don't know. Mm-hmm. And if someone has never been that much at that point of a struggle with their health, they almost feel like they need to fix it. Yeah. It's like an innate need where you are not healthy. This is a problem. We need to help you. Mm-hmm. And when I took that mindset of some of these comments that I was getting, it's I always got free health advice, Hey, have you ever tried keto?
Yeah. It's from the person that works at McDonald's probably, right?
Yeah. Or, oh, hey, do you know if you eat 27 peppercorn? It's there's just some random stuff, but you always get it from everybody. Yeah. And there'll be these little comments just about your size. It's always about your size. It's never about anything else. And one example of a situation that I addressed directly was with my family. Mm-hmm. We're a sarcastic family. We like to say stuff, but there comes a point where is it necessary in the moment? Yeah. And so one day I was walking with my mom and her wheelchair, she rolls in front of me and I was wearing all black. I don't know. And my dad looks at it and is like, oh man, it's like the eclipse. I can't see your mom anymore, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Now, a lot of people might hear that and, oh, that's just a joke or whatever. But like, I'm at a very vulnerable moment at that point. Yeah. And so I hear that and it's just like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I directly said something to him about that, like in the moment, or if like it was a conversation later, but we talked about that. And he's been very respectful of that ever since. And, you know, like we still joke with each other about stuff. But like I had to have that conversation with him. I had to have that conversation with my sister about a different thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, some people, their issue when you are that fat is that they feel like you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And that you need to be pampered and babied through this because of where you've gotten to. And there is some truth to that. Like if I can't do physically things, I do need to ask for help, you know, because I'm going to be suffering during this journey. But like I would say I'm thinking about doing something and all of a sudden there'd be like 10 copies of that out on the table waiting for me. And I'm like, well, I didn't like commit to it, you know? Or it was like, I don't need to constantly be reminded of what I'm doing. Like people would keep praising me and
like
praising
it's a
me.
handicap or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like I wouldn't say I'm uncomfortable talking about the weight loss, but I'm almost uncomfortable when people give me praise for it because I'm down 135 pounds, which I'm very proud of. I got like another 200 to go. Yeah. Before I'm what I consider to be healthy. You know, like I got to lose 300 pounds to be healthy, basically.
Gotcha. So what is your opinion on this kind of reverse psychology of fat shaming, where people that are big and are heavy, and I would say probably borderline obese if they're not, about them being proud to be big and heavy and it's big and beautiful and it's sexy. What does that, how do you feel about that? And also the like, you know, Adele, she's lost a ton of weight and she got shamed for that. Rebel Wilson lost a ton of weight, got shamed for that. What is your thoughts on that? Because realistically, when you're big and you start to accept that you're big and you start to justify it as big and beautiful, and I'm not saying they're not beautiful people, right? I'm thinking more on the healthy side of that.
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I've had this exact conversation with other people who are also very obese. Mm-hmm. So I used to work as a Lyft and Uber driver, and I drove in Alabama while I lived there, or in Georgia. A lot of obese people in the South. So I had a lot of people in my car who were also obese. And we would talk about our size because I was talking about my journey. And I did not have a single conversation with anybody who was obese in my car who ever truly felt happy with themselves. And I would question them on that because they'd say something. I'd be like, is that actually how you feel? Now, maybe they were just saying that to get me to shut up. I don't know. But what I think is, number one, if you look at a lot of the people that try to celebrate big and beautiful when really it's a fat or obesity issue, I look at the age range of them because a lot of these people tend to be younger people. One of the biggest names in that kind of category right now would be Lizzo. Mm-hmm. She very much is, you know, I'm big and beautiful, and she is a beautiful woman, but she is obese, and that's a fact. And I think that as people who are obese get older, the impact of that obesity hits a lot harder. Adele was 30, I think now, or is turning 30 soon. And then Rebel Wilson, same thing. She's in her late 30s, maybe now. Mm-hmm. And you see even people who are like older actors and actresses. One comes to mind. What is it? Kevin James has talked about his struggles with stuff. There was another actor, and I'm forgetting his name, but he was in. The
21.
Remember the Titans?
21 Jump Street. Oh, you're not talking about him.
I'm not talking. Oh, you're Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill. Yeah, you're thinking of Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill's lost weight, and he actually took an interesting approach where he's like, I don't want you to comment on my body. Yeah. Right. Which I appreciate that kind of because like so many people praise you when you're not happy, and that's a weird mental thing. Yeah. But he was in Remember the Titans, the really big lineman guy. Yeah. Or have you seen the movie Butterfly Effect? That. He was the big friend in that.
I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah.
Didn't even recognize him.
That dude is shredded now.
Yeah.
And he talks about how people in his job, people like having him as the fat guy because he was the fat comic relief. Yeah. And he's gotten like no acting gigs since he lost weight.
So they typecast him based on that alone.
Right. Mm-hmm. But with regards to the fat shaming or the fat phobia, I think part of it is as a whole, society is less inclined to hear negative things about themselves. The common phrase when I was a kid was sticks and stones may break my bones, words will never hurt me.
Yep.
I don't feel that that's true. Words do carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But we were taught to basically shove all that in.
Yeah.
Today's society is taught to like confront it.
Yeah.
And so we're dealing with a couple of things, which is people are confronting the comments, but also people, I think in that younger age group that are bigger, they almost don't want to really deal with the problems of being obese. I guarantee you that these people also have some of the same issues that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And there are things that I will maybe never tell people about because it's so embarrassing to me as a person of what I had to do to accept the change in my body. But I guarantee you a lot of these same people that are pushing that are of this same variety. Now, at the same time, having gone through it from my end, why do we need to comment on their bodies if we're not living what they're going through, right? If it's a close friend, if it's a family member, if it's someone that's talking about the issues that they're having physically, I feel like then you can, okay, well, can we help you with that? Or how can we help you? Or, here's
I guess my point of view is it's not safe. It's not healthy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a snowball effect that this will lead to where you're at in life.
Yeah,
potentially.
It is. And if anybody were to tell me to my face that, big is beautiful or I do think different body types exist. And I think every body type can be beautiful 100%, but we need to stop talking about being like morbidly obese or obese in a light that's positive in the sense that, oh no, you are perfect exactly like that, in my opinion, because I had people who would beat around the bushes with me around my health because of that kind of same thing. And I'm not saying it would have changed anything for me, but it's like, it's not healthy. Yep. I lived a large portion of my life now has been over 400 pounds and that wasn't healthy, and and a lot of these people who say that are trying to defend their obesity are people that are probably not addressing the actual health issues that come with it. Yeah. Now, there are some people who are very overweight, but like are still crazy, freakishly athletic and do stuff. And I know some people who look very overweight, but have like perfect health records and stuff. And so there are some.
Well, I think that's the difference. That there is a difference, and from our perspective, it's like it's hard for us to define that. Oftentimes, you always judge a book by its cover, which is very unfortunate. We had Flex on earlier, and he's a black man, and you have to deal with everybody's going to judge you right off the bat just based on what they see and define you in their minds.
This is probably going to sound bad. I don't like Flex right now.
Okay. Flex, darn it.
No, he's just, he actually makes you work out, which sucks for me.
So he's coaching you.
Primarily at the gym, I work with Ryan and Flex, and then Austin are kind of the three.
So you hate to love them and love to hate them.
I hate all three of them.
Yeah.
No, it's just a flat out. I tell them every time.
Because they're not yes men. They're not yes men.
No. Well, okay. So Austin and Ryan have been awesome because they have pushed me past what I even thought was possible. I mean, Austin got me to do a box jump at 500 pounds.
Woo! Nice.
So like, what the heck is that?
Hell yeah.
And then, what was it the other day? Ryan. So, as far as like my physical strength and whatnot, a single leg has been awful for me.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Right. I weigh a lot. It's hard.
They're not easy.
But the other day, I actually did a lunge where my knee touched the ground. Ooh, and it's the first time I've done that since I started this whole thing. And he celebrated that with me, right? But I wouldn't have done that if he hadn't kept pushing me to go lower or pushing me to try things. Or if I couldn't physically do something, find another thing that could match the similar movements and stuff.
Yeah.
So I have nothing but respect for those guys. I just hate them in the moment because it's like, I don't want to do another rep. Or my biggest bone of contention is they never count the warm-up set. So
working set.
Right. Yeah. They say 4 sets and you do 5. I'm like, no, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's not how math works. But yeah, no, the thing about the body types, like for me, if I hadn't been as athletic as I am, I probably would be dead by now. Yeah. 'Cause I don't think you can. I've seen My 600-Pound Life. It's terrifying to say that I almost qualified for that show in essence. Not that I actually like applied for it or nothing, but like my weight, qualified me for it. People don't move at that size. You don't see 600-pound people walking and taking care of themselves. And I didn't have anyone that took care of me. Now, was I actually taking care of myself? Arguably not. But like I would go get groceries. I would still walk up the stairs to my apartment. That was terrible for me.
How much were you eating at that time? What was your calorie intake, if you don't mind?
Oh my God. So I'm going to do a video about this at some point.
And at the end, we're going to give your links to your socials and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. But I've thought about this because it's going to look ridiculous. Here, the best example that I can come up with off the top of my head is when I was very close to peak weight, probably like 10 pounds away. I remember one day I went to Sonic, right? Love Sonic. Never eat there anymore. But I would get the foot-long coney, which is just the chili cheese dog with large size tots, large Coke, and then another foot-long coney. Take that home. That would be eaten in 10 minutes, right? Maybe less. 2 to 2.5 hours later, I would go to the convenience store and I'd grab a 64-ounce Mountain Dew, probably a bag of Fritos or Doritos, a couple of the rollers on the thing, a bag of gummies. That would all be gone in about half an hour or less. Wow. About 2.5 hours after that, I'm going to order some pizza. So I'd order 2 large pizzas, some cheesy bread, 2 liters of soda, and then I'd eat half of that or more within the next hour or less. Wow. And then I'd have the rest of that in another 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so the calorie count must have been 10,000 or more. I was drinking 3 or more 64 ounces of Mountain Dew a day. I was, every single meal was eating out, or if I did buy groceries, it was like frozen pizzas and stuff that's not good for you.
Was it a lust for food or was that something what's that how you coped? A coping mechanism?
Oh, it's definitely partially coping for sure. Okay. I, to this day, love Mountain Dew. I still love it. I don't know if that's ever going away officially, but I try to limit it a lot now.
A lot of sugar in that.
Oh yeah, it's horrible for you, but it's still the nectar of the gods. Yeah. And but yeah, there were moments where you feel miserable, and what do 90% of Americans do when they feel miserable? They get comfort food.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of reasons to feel miserable. But just with my weight alone. But then also at that same time, I was dealing with like a breakup. I was dealing with my mom's health. I was dealing with, eventually COVID happened, right? Mm-hmm. So like all this stuff piling on top of each other. So there was a lot of that, but it's also ease of access. I am capable of cooking. I've actually worked as a cook at a bar at one point. Not that that's healthy food, but I'm capable, but it's so much easier to throw a frozen pizza in the oven than it is to cook.
Super convenient.
It's so much easier to, order my Thai food in advance and just go pick it up and come back, Like I'd rather waste the gas money and go over there and get it than have to make it myself.
Yeah.
And that's still true to this day. Like I still would rather go get Thai food than eat healthy. Or I'd still rather order a pizza or whatever. But a lot of it, there was a large part of it that was coping. A large part of it was ease of access. And then my job as a Lyft driver, I don't know how anyone stays healthy as a driver full time because you're always driving. There's nowhere to hold your food where it stays cold. So trying to store food was almost impossible. Even when I was making the change, I only lost like maybe 45 pounds over the first 9 to 10 months that I was doing this. And that was all while being a driver full time. I've lost about 100 pounds since then.
Wow.
In the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's having a non-stable work situation with the stress of like I had to get every single ride I could to make it. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that piled up on top of it. What was already a bad slate. Like by the time I was at that point, I was already like, I think when I started driving, I was like 460. Okay. So I was already in a bad spot to begin with. And then you just, you take away all your opportunities to get healthy. And then, so it got real bad real quick.
What are your calorie intake now compared to? I mean, you don't have to tell me the number.
Oh no, you're fine. I don't technically know the number because we did this calculation a while back.
Yeah.
And I think it's like 3,500.
Wow. Okay.
Now to be crystal clear, this was not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
The way that I've done my changes and the way that I tell a lot of my friends who are trying to make changes is you should think about maybe from this approach is I make a single change that I can commit to for the next month.
There you go.
And then once that becomes normal, then I'm okay, what's my next change? And for me, I broke it into 3 categories. I said, I'm going to make a change for my physical effort. I'm going to make a change for my food. And I'm going to make a lifestyle change. Those are like my 3 focuses that I tried to change every time. So the very first food change, this is going to sound stupid, cap my sodas at 364 ounces a day.
Okay.
Right?
Which is cutting out 1, right? Because you said 3 to 4.
3 or 4. So I could, so at maybe best case scenario, that's like 1 a day. Maybe it's probably like 1 every other day that I was cutting out. But even if it's 1 every other day, that's 190 calories that or 190 ounces of Mountain Dew I'm not drinking in a week, right?
Which is, I wonder how much sugar that is. You want to look that up?
I think it's like, what, 24 for a 12 ounce?
It could be.
It's probably more than that.
I know the calories are insane.
Yeah.
A 44 ounce of Mountain Dew comes in around like 500 calories. So, yeah. So that was the majority of my bad calories. Yeah. But, so that was the very first change that I made.
880
for a 64 ounce
serving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would drink that shit in like,
shit.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were really close to that
sugar
10,000
count on that.
Yeah, this makes me even more confident about the 10,000 that I threw out there because I'm like, I was drinking 25 to 3,000 calories a day was just soda.
Does that say 220?
That's carbs.
That's carbs.
Sure. Oh no, 232 grams.
32 grams of sugar.
Oh my god.
Fuck.
Good thing I'm reading this now and not at the time. I would have died. I would have lost it.
Okay, so that was
So that was the first one, and the first physical change was obviously the walks. And then the first lifestyle change was. And this is allowing myself to like sit in silence.
Like meditation?
Not even meditation. Okay. I mean like not having my phone on, not having my tablet, not being in front of the computer or the TV.
Okay.
Part of it was kind of I was forced to with my living situation when I moved in with my family, which we didn't mention that. After my visit with my family for a month and a half, I went back to where I was at in Tacoma at the time. Okay. And then we knew my mom was passing. And we knew that I didn't have a way to visit again. So literally I just packed what I could in my car and I drove out there. Okay. And a huge financial hit to do that. Would have done it a million times over because of my mom. And the support that I had out there. But moved to Alabama and Georgia for about 9 months before coming back here. But when I was out there, I was living in the same room as my nephew on a bunk bed. I used to have my own apartment before this, right? So my personal sanctity or whatever privacy was gone when I went out there. And so those moments where everyone else was asleep and I was the only one up, rather than turning the TV on, I would just sit there and like let myself just breathe and like try to relax. And that played a huge impact on me finally admitting that like I wanted to do this for me.
Good.
Because it's like we always try to shut out the mental noise with other stuff because it's easier, right? So that was one of the first things that I started working on. Not as good as that these days. I'm like super busy these days, but that was a big change then. And then like the next change was, okay, can I limit the number of extra items when I go out? So the hot dog thing, right? If I went to Carl's Jr., I would get a meal large size with an extra double Western, right? Can I cut out the extra double Western? Or if I go to Taco Bell, I'd get like 4 extra tacos with a meal. Can I cut some of those out, right? So people wouldn't think that those are the changes that I made because you've lost so much weight. Yeah. You probably went vegan, and I'll never go vegan. But you probably did all these things, and like, no, I did this one thing for a month, and once it got stuck, I tried to find the next thing.
Smart. That's so smart.
And like a recent change to even show like I'm still doing this. I make chickens and salads for most of my dinners. Okay. I don't like, I can eat the same thing every single day and be fine. Yeah. So, which helps me, I think.
Same.
So I do a chicken breast with a salad, and my salads back in the day used to be like romaines, croutons, heavy dressing, just, not healthy. Yeah. Now it's, like recently what I was doing is a spinach greens mix, diced peppers, bell peppers, the cherry tomatoes. Yeah. And then I do almonds, with, shredded carrots, and I do a yogurt based dressing rather than like a mayonnaise based or whatever those other ones are. And it's only like 40 calories per servings and significantly less sugar than anything else.
Yeah. And you can virtually eat as much as you want of that, really. I mean, if you wanted to, right? Because it's so low on calorie count.
Oh, yeah. No, the total calorie count for my dinners right now is like maybe 500 to 600 calories, and the bulk of that is the chicken.
Yeah.
You know? But that salad, at one point, I was using those, like the crunchy chow mein noodles, instead of the carrots. But those crunchy chow mein were like 130 calories for like a half a cup. And I was like, that's one of the biggest points of calories in my salad. Yeah. So
they probably were loaded with sodium too, right?
I probably was, yeah. And so I made the change to the shredded carrots, and the shredded carrots are like 30 calories per cup.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge difference.
Yeah.
But that's the small change that I'm talking about, you know.
And small change with big results.
Yeah. Well, it's small change with consistency. You know, it's the age-old phrase, hard work will beat talent if talent doesn't work hard, right?
Yeah.
I think the same thing is true with our bodies is, I can name people in my life who have lost 50 to 100 pounds faster than I have. I can also name a lot of those same people who have gained all that weight back or a large portion of it back. And that's not like, and I'm not trying to like think ill of those people because, you know, I know how hard this is, but I just know that what I'm doing works really well for me.
Yeah.
And I had to change my mindset to understand this is not overnight. This is going to be a process, and it's not going to be finished ever. Like, let's be honest about that. Because you were talking about addiction, someone who's coming out of addiction, it's the same thing. You are never finished with that battle. I will never be finished battling my obesity. Yeah. Right. Because it's going to have to be continually daily choices, even when I'm healthy.
Even when you get down to goal weight, you have to maintain that now.
Right, yeah. And so for me, I knew it was going to be a long battle, and so I committed to the long battle, you know, and I said, okay, I'm okay with not losing weight 10, 15, 20 pounds every week or whatever. I'm okay with losing a pound or two every week, you know. Like last week, I think I lost 7 pounds, but I guarantee you I'm probably either going to have gained a pound or probably only lost like a half a pound this week. Yeah. Because a lot of that was probably water weight. But like, that's the thing is like yo-yoing is going to happen. You got to keep consistent through it, and you can't let the number freak you out.
Yeah. Well, and
a lot of people, a lot of people focus on the scale, and then once it starts going back up, they feel discouraged, and you know they just stop.
Yeah, I've had entire months where I stayed even or gained weight.
Yeah. Now, right? Can you attribute that to working out, gaining muscle weight?
Yes and no. I think I can attest that the number one thing is what you eat. Yeah. Like just flat out, especially I think once you pass 25 and get into your 30s, you lose a lot of that metabolism. And so what you eat matters even more. Yeah. But for people who are obese, like very obese, I do think that training, especially like adding muscle, is important because your body is suffering under the weight that you carry, right? I often joke at the gym about how I'm actually squatting more than everybody else because of my body weight, right? So I might have like, I think the other day I squatted like 165 10 times, which was a new high for me coming back from this. But then you add in the other 200 pounds I'm not supposed to be carrying, right? Yeah.
I mean, those are facts, though.
Yeah,
those are facts.
Yeah, that's
just to be able to functionally get down to that position. Those are facts.
Yeah. And the thing I said about he said I couldn't get out of a chair to me, right? Yeah. That's a real moment in my life. Like I, for a long time, had to get help getting out of a chair, or I had to do like the whole like rock back and forth to get the energy built up, right? Yeah. Or as something to really yank on, to get out. My car, I think you've seen my car, the Chrysler.
Oh yeah.
So it's a big interior, right? There was a point at the max weight where anytime I came in or out of the car, the horn would honk because I was so big that my belly would press against it and it would honk. Yeah. And like, oh yeah, hey, fat guy's here. If that wasn't a clear sign. So, so there's a lot of stuff like that. But like you were talking about the number gets stuck in your head, right? Mm-hmm. The non-scale victories are very important. And I can look at the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. So like I'll weigh myself probably 3 to 4 times a week. That's probably not the way most people should do it. But I'm a numbers trajectory. Where am I going? That's kind of how my brain works. But like a recent non-scale victory, I talked about like when I put my pants on standing up, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know, like that's awesome.
That's cool.
The one non-scale victory I'm not happy about right now is I'm going to have to buy a ton of new clothes.
But that is a victory.
It's a victory.
It's a victory.
It's a very expensive victory.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy when you talk to people about what they're focused on when it comes to weight loss, because everyone's going to have different reasoning for why they're getting into it, but the main reasoning is always the same. It's your body. It's getting healthy. And I think sometimes we lose focus in like the glamour of, and like I said, I hate before and after pictures for the reason that people think of it as a single moment in time, right? And I know I'm posting on social media now. It didn't start because I wanted to. Like some of my friends wanted updates and they wanted visual updates. Yeah. And then some strangers started following me, and like one guy messaged me and said, like, dude, you've inspired me to go and do this.
There it is right there.
So I'm like, well, now I got to post stuff, right? Yeah. And I like to talk about the negatives with the positives, because I don't think you can have both sides of it, or you can't have the full story without both sides of it. Like a couple weeks ago, I ate like garbage the entire week. At the same time, I hit some new records for myself lifting. You know, it was the first time squatting more weight than what I've lost so far. It was the first time doing the deadlift from the floor at over 200 pounds. You know, it was the first time touching my knee to the ground on a lunge. Yeah. And so in the same week, I gained 3 pounds, ate like garbage. So I felt like a failure in that regards, but the evidence of my success is there too. Yeah. And so it's, you know, I have to confront both and learn from the bad and be thankful for the good and understand the work that's led into that. And people will get derailed from 1 or 2 or 3 bad things that happen. And, you know, listen, there are so many, like I struggle recently with like sleep. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm really trying to focus on is getting my sleep back. Cause I've missed a few of the morning workouts that I normally go to, and then you got to make them up, then throws off your day, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I've been working on that myself. Like I didn't go to my workout this morning. I missed my workout this morning. But the other Justin messaged me what we're doing, and, you know, you'll see me in the gym tomorrow, right? So I'm going to make that up, because I realize that if I skip a workout, it's not about the workout. It's about the mindset. Yeah. Like if you're a person who has struggled with something and you give yourself one excuse not to do it, the one excuse will always lead to a second excuse.
And then justification.
Right. And that's why with the food, like I will call myself out when I've eaten poorly for a week. And to be clear, I still allow myself 3 to 4 cheat meals a week, right? I'm not at a point where my thing is perfect. And my cheat meals are like Carl's Jr. or, you know, like I will allow myself to eat fast food for a cheat meal. And I know that that's not healthy, right? Again, remember where I came from.
That's where you're at right now.
Yeah. Still in the process.
Right. And eventually that's going to go down to 2 cheat meals or 1 cheat meal. And eventually I'm going to try to cut soda altogether, and I'll cry and have a, you know, funeral for Mountain Dew at the time. But it's such a process, though. Yeah. It's such a lifelong thing.
So tell me about your support system around here.
Well, for starters, I always laugh when I say this. I live with my father currently.
What's wrong with that though?
Well, I laugh because like the joke when I was a kid was always, you're going to be 30 living with your parents. And so like, I'm 30 living with my parent. Yeah. But that was a support thing for him because he had just lost his wife of 35 years. And it was a support thing for me because financially I was like wrecked by going out there. Yeah. So I needed help getting back up on my feet financially. And so my dad is a huge supporter for me. You know, he's always constantly amazed at the things that I can do at my size. He's like, listen, like I showed him the video of me doing the box jump. He's like, a 500-pound person should not be able to jump a foot off the ground. Yeah. You know, or, you know, I was doing like core stuff one day at home, and he's like, a 480-pound person should not be able to do 500 crunches in, you know, a session. Yeah. Or whatever it was that I did. And
not to mention that he does the Weekend Warrior on Saturdays.
Hold on, what's that?
Fucking hard. It's the Saturday morning class that oftentimes Austin is the one that runs it. I've done it a few times. It's fucking hard. This motherfucker does it.
Not well.
It doesn't.
But you're doing it.
Yeah. This last weekend.
That's a relative term.
Yeah. Well, I've had to learn that I'm never going to be able to complete the full workout that you can. Right. That was something I learned.
Not many people can do what I do, though.
Well, you're a beast. Okay.
I'm joking. I'm just.
You're like, I'm kind of a big deal. People know me.
Well, I mean, I don't think you're necessarily wrong in that. You do put in hard fucking work at the gym.
Listen, the people at this gym have earned their physical stature, right? Like I look at it. There's a dude, I don't know his name. I wish I knew his name, but he has like a funny mustache, redheaded dude, just really buff dude.
Oh,
Ryan?
you're talking about Ryan.
Is it Ryan?
Ryan.
Okay. I love that guy.
Fucking strong.
I think he's hilarious, first of all, but I talked to him one time, like, can we just switch bodies? And he said to me, like, yeah, after like 5 years of working hard. And I was like, oh, damn, he's right. Like, I gotta, so.
Did you take that to heart?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I was already putting in the hard work. Yes. So I liked that he said that because he didn't just laugh it off. And he's like, dude, you can get here too.
Yeah.
Because like that, the way that he phrased it. But I had to remember, because one of the hardest things for me, and I maybe am very unique in this category, is that I was a Division I athlete at one point, right? I played football at Oregon very briefly. It's actually, I know Vic that way.
Yeah.
Vic is the first person I ever pancaked in college.
Nice.
Which, he'll probably deny it, but it is what it is. But yeah, I met Vic through there, and that's how I knew about the gym, right? Yeah. And when I knew that I was going to need to start lifting. Like, I love lifting, and I haven't done it in a long time. So I was like, okay, I need to find a gym to lift. Vic has a gym. I'm going to go there. And then I walk in and I see everyone that's so fit, and all these people are doing stuff. And there's some people in the morning class that I go to who are like 100 pounds that are lifting as much as I'm lifting. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it can be demoralizing when you compare yourself to your old stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like I used to, and my numbers
or
weren't
to anybody else.
Yeah, 100%. And my numbers, like when I was in great shape, weren't great in some categories. I think my bench max was like 335, which for a lineman is very low for a lineman. But I power cleaned 315.
Wow.
I was squatting 605 as a max at the time, and I did actually get timed running a 4.9840. So like I was in incredible athletic shape at one point. And so now, so that's one of the hardest things now for me is like, when I say I could only deadlift whatever, that was the most that I've deadlifted since coming back, right? And it had the chain on it, and I'm watching other people struggle with that, and I'm just like repping it out. Yeah. And it's like, but before, that would have been my warm-up set, if that, So that's been one of the hard things too, is the comparison game, just with yourself. But yeah, it's been, so having that weird dichotomy of, I was once this like incredible athlete. I argue to a certain extent, I still am an incredible athlete because I would not be able to do what I'm doing if it weren't for that athletic background.
Absolutely.
And that kind of touches on your thing about, is strength training important for losing weight? And I would argue for anybody who is dealing with obesity or like morbid obesity, I think it is important because you need that muscular structure to just support your body. Yeah.
Do you feel it more important than cardio? Because there's a lot of people.
You can't do cardio at my size. Like, I'm just being honest about that.
Yeah.
Remember how long I said I could walk at a time? Mm-hmm. That's not cardio.
Yeah.
No.
Right? That's a failure of your body to hold yourself up.
Yeah.
Right? So I would argue that it is more important than cardio in the sense that, like, you need to be able to physically hold yourself to be able to do cardio. Mm-hmm. And it was a long time. Like, my body was still in pain from my just size of my body until I think I got under like 480.
Wow.
And it was just a daily constant, always the same spots of my body, always the parts that are holding the most weight, right? My back, my knees, my ankles, my hip. Those were always like the spots that just were constantly in pain 24/7. And so the reason that pain has gone away is a combination of losing the weight, but now the muscular structure around those places are better.
Yeah.
Because I have more support and I've lost the weight.
And the confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, other than looking back and like, oh, fuck, I was this. But the confidence, it's giving you a new sense of confidence because the strength that's coming back.
Yes. I don't know that the confidence makes a difference in the pain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just in general, as far as like what he had asked, as far as like lifting versus cardio.
Oh, yeah. Dude, it feels so good to pull heavy weight, doesn't it? Like, it's addicting, man. Yeah. It's like, you got to make noises. And,
man. Hell yeah.
I did a set. I don't even remember. I think it was the hex bar deadlifts. Mm-hmm. And
I saw that.
Yeah. And that's like
repping that shit out.
Yeah. And so I was laughing at myself because I talked about in the video that I posted, I think I said first time, like I wouldn't even have been able to get it off the ground like 2 months before that. And it wasn't so much the weight, it was not being able to get into position to support the weight. Right. And then I did that. And then when I watched the video in my head, when I was doing that lift, I was failing. Like I was like, every single rep felt horrendous to me. When I watched the clip, I was like, that actually looked
flew.
Like, yeah, it's
flew.
like that
it
was
looked
like,
easy as fuck for me.
Right. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. I actually kind of repped that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, so there is an aspect that feels great about that.
Yeah.
But the thing is too, we have to remember, because we are going to be more inclined to lifting from what we've been through. There are people that are morbidly obese that have never been athletic or done anything mobile really in their lives. And I think those are the people that are going to have the biggest struggles physically, because the only way to come back from that then becomes one of two options: is you either have that surgery, the bypass, or you have to physically push through it. And if you've never done anything athletic, if you've never put your body through that kind of torture by choice before, I don't know how anyone can do that without that background, what I went through.
Yeah. So also, the difference between like FS Forever Strong is basically a private gym.
Yeah.
Versus like a commercial gym. What do you think that just the intimidation of going in, minus maybe Planet Fitness, because they're a judgment-free zone.
Right.
I hate Planet Fitness, but you know what I mean.
They had a great commercial though.
They did have, yeah.
Did you guys, you remember that commercial with that like really swole Austrian guy? Do you remember this?
Can you find it?
No, maybe you can find it, but it's this dude, just like this yoked Austrian guy. He walks in and they're like, "Oh yeah, what are you here for?" It's like, "I lift things up and I put them down." And they're like, "Okay, well, we do have a free weight section over here. Would you like this?" Like, "I lift things up and I put them down." And then it's just like he keeps saying that. And so they're like, "Okay, and if you go out here, I lift things up," and then they shut the door behind him, and then the sign pans out and it says exit. Yeah, it's like Planet Fitness, not for everybody, but for most people.
Yeah. Well, and that's anyway. So, but do you think like an obese person would feel comfortable in a commercial gym?
I don't feel comfortable at Forever Strong.
Really?
Even with the support?
Even with the support, I don't feel comfortable going in public.
Yeah. Okay. I get
you. So there's part of the answer to your question is that we're never comfortable.
Okay.
You know, these clothes that I'm wearing are like super baggy for my. Oh, that's the one.
Okay. Here's the strength circuit.
I lift things up and put them down.
He's got
over here.
I lift things up and put them down.
And this is our stretching area.
I lift things up.
Yeah. No, I loved that just because he's like, I lift things up and put them down. Just
out the door, buddy.
But yeah, I don't think any obese person will ever feel comfortable in genuinely any public setting.
Why do you think that is at those conversations? Like,
My bad.
No, you're good. Hi, Ryan. But specifically when it comes to gyms, I think it depends on what your goal is. If my goal is to look like the person next to me, then I'm going to be real uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And those public like LA Fitness, Planet Fitness, those gyms, most of the people that are going there are already healthy. That's true of most any gym really. And then that's the people that you see.
Yeah.
When you go there, you don't see the other person struggling. Like there's another dude that goes to FS at night who's probably maybe, I don't know if he's as obese as I am, but he's a big dude.
I think Flex mentioned him. Okay. I don't remember his name.
I want to say Corey or Cody or something, but I know Ryan works with him, but like he's a bigger dude too, and that guy puts in work, right?
Yeah.
But I would never, like if you had asked me the first day after I left FS, my first session, if he was there, I wouldn't have recognized him because I would have been looking at, all the other people that are in incredible shape.
Yeah.
And it's just a terrifying concept because workout clothes are the most revealing clothes, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're a woman. It's like if you're a woman, you're basically expected to wear yoga pants or whatever the flexible pants are.
Yeah.
The workout pants.
The leggings, yeah.
The leggings, yeah. And I've known women who won't go to the gym just specifically because they don't have clothing they feel comfortable in at the gym, right?
That's sad.
And for me too, it's like, listen, I don't have a lot of stuff that I can sweat in that is designed to be sweat in. Thankfully for me, and this is, I don't know if this is a plug for them, but Reebok a while back started working with the Big and Tall store, the DXL chain.
Oh, okay.
And so now like pretty much everything I own is from them. Sweet. Because you can actually sweat in it.
Yeah.
So I feel more comfortable because of that. But yeah, those gyms, there's no community, right? So unless you're going with a friend or with a group of people, or you're in the classes, it's very isolating. Yeah. It's very detrimental to your mental health because you're just looking at all these really attractive and shape people.
You're probably assuming they're judging you.
And maybe rightfully so in a lot of cases. Yeah. Like there's unfortunately, and it's not as bad as maybe it used to be in a lot of cases, but the fat shaming idea is still in people's head even when they're at the gym. And like I said, and for a lot of people, it's an unconscious thing. Yeah. It's just a reaction. People look at me differently than when I was healthy versus now. Yeah. Right. Now the people like with you at the gym, people have seen me push through it. I don't get that because they see the work I'm doing. Yeah. But
that being said, the very first time you and I met and interacted, I after the fact, I even messaged you that I didn't want you to feel insulted by me coming up to you and saying, good job, kicking ass in here. Because it to me, it came across like I was pitying you because you're a bigger dude, but that wasn't it. That wasn't it. I'm that dude that tells people nice fucking job.
I could tell you were intense. I could feel the intensity. You know, I think I appreciate more the fact that you even said anything afterwards, like about that. 'Cause I didn't think anything of it. Okay. I just thought you were a dude who was like, yeah, heck yeah, man. Good to see, you know. Yeah. But there's a lot of people who would say stuff that's actually insulting without realizing it and just whatever. Like, listen, I'm always going to be referred to as big. When I was healthy, I was 295 pounds. Like I'm just a big dude.
Big dude. Yeah.
Not everyone likes being called big who is big, right? I know a lot of people who are similar size to me that big is like the biggest insult you can call them. Yeah.
You know, I'm short and I've had to deal with that shit my whole fucking life.
Right.
I mean, believe it or not, I'm short. I don't know if you noticed, but
I mean, I listen, anyone who's under 6 foot tall is short to me. So like I'm 6'4", so I'm
but it's similar. It's similar. I've literally had everybody fucking, you know, it's funny to talk to make these little roasted jokes about the short guy. Even with benching and squatting and deadlifting, it's like, oh, your range of motion's shorter, your range of motion.
Listen, anyone that watches you do those things and chooses to make fun of something is dumb.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree. I agree.
There are differences to how bodies do lifts for sure. Like I have to, when I do a squat, it's a lot longer of a distance to go, but that doesn't change the fact that what you're doing is any less difficult, you know?
It's relative to my body.
Yeah. And one of the things, this is a phrase that I really wish more people had heard. There was a Netflix documentary on a guy that, I think it was called Iron Cowboy, if I remember correctly. And it was about a dude that did these Ironmans, and he did like 10 Ironmans in 10 weeks one time because he's an idiot in my opinion. But he did them, and it was for some cause, raising money, something like that. And then, but he wanted to do something even more because I guess either he struggled with or his mom struggled with obesity like his whole life, and a lot of his friends who were kids struggled with obesity like as children. And so he wanted to raise money to fight childhood obesity. So he did 50 Ironmans in 50 days, one in each state.
Wow.
So legitimately, he started in Hawaii, then did an Ironman. Now, not like a competition, but like the lengths, right? Yeah. Then flew to Alaska, and within 24 hours of the last Ironman, did another Ironman. Then flew to Washington, did another Ironman, and literally every 24 hours, he was doing an Ironman somewhere in the country.
Wow.
And the video documents his journey and everything, but one of the most impactful things to me was his mom. So his mom has always been obese, you know, and struggled with it, but she agreed, like, hey, if you're going to commit to doing this, I'm going to be there for the last 5K portions that you do, right? So she started training to do the 5Ks, and if he made it to the 45th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or whatever, 46th through 50th days, she was going to be there. Wow. He made it. She showed up, and she was in horrible shape still. You know, you don't change overnight, as I've learned. And she was always the last person to finish the 5K, like to the point where like everyone else was asleep and like, you know, stuff.
But she finished.
And going into the final day, she's talking to her son on the show, and she says, I just don't understand. Like, I feel so bad because here you are doing your 50th Ironman, and I'm complaining about these little 5Ks that I've done, right? Which is a very common mindset for people to have, right? And what he says to her, I'll literally never forget this phrase, is just because what's hard for you isn't hard for me doesn't change how difficult it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to repeat it just because to me it's
absolutely.
I had to think I was processing.
Right. Just because what's hard for you is not hard for me doesn't mean it's not difficult.
Yeah.
Right. We put so much of our own struggles as being so much different than other people's struggles that we forget that, like, hey, we're still allowed to struggle with something just because someone else isn't.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. We don't give grace to people very often.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, again, with my size, people will put things on me because of what they've been through, and they'll assume that I'm not struggling in the way that they're struggling, or I'm choosing not to struggle.
Yeah.
But also for me, with my weight loss, I can't then look at somebody who's in your shape, who maybe your thing is that you want to lose like a few pounds for a competition, and that's hard for you. Mm-hmm. I can't poo-poo that.
Yeah.
Because just because that's not what my struggle is doesn't mean it's not what yours is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's a phrase that literally changed my view on a lot of talking to people about this and a lot of how I approached it. Because if I only looked at the other people that are at that gym, I would never go back to that gym.
Yeah.
Right? I would have given up on that a long time ago. But by choosing to not think about that and continue on and actually get to know the people and feel the support, right? It's been amazing.
Good.
You know, but that phrase, I really wish more people
it's good.
knew that phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have anything else?
No, not.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I talk a lot.
No,
it's
that's
fine
what
with
you're
me.
here for, bro.
Takes the pressure off me.
He doesn't.
Well, just in
Advice or just like
there you go.
some words of encouragement or whatever the hell you want.
People who are starting out, yeah.
Well, so for anyone who's starting out, you just have to know there are so many other people that are in the exact same position who are choosing not to start, right? So you need to be proud of yourself just for the fact that you're starting. Number two, know that the journey is going to be hard, right?
Yep.
You're going to wake up numerous days where you don't want to do it. And if your reasoning is for you, then you need to make the daily choice to recommit to that. Right?
Do you have any tips on how to consistently remind yourself every day? Like, I mean, people do affirmations and stuff, right? You know, daily affirmations, but
to me, it's like, because I don't know if this is the same for everybody, but I always have that mental battle of like, do I really want, you know? And it's those moments are what I consider the choices. Because like, listen, the days where I get up on time and get dressed and go, like that's not a choice. Like that was just my routine.
Yeah.
Right. The choices are when it's not what you want to do. Right. So if you are battling with the decision, you already know what the answer is. So to anyone who's struggling, that's the same, like that's what I would say is if you have to fight yourself about the decision, then you already know what the answer is that you should be doing.
Yeah.
So do it.
Nice.
Like just don't think about it.
Just do it.
Don't hesitate it. Nike. Just do it.
Yeah.
There's a reason that's a good slogan.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people, you know, they start to second guess and then question themselves, and it's like procrastination leads to fucking, you know.
And then I guess the final thing I would say is that your results will vary. Everybody's results are drastically different from each other's, right? Yep. I have a friend of mine at work who, I mean, she has said that I'm part of the reason why she started doing stuff, but she's lost like 35 or 40 pounds over the last few months.
Oh yeah.
And she, one time, not that long ago, her and I were talking and she couldn't see it. And she was starting to lose faith. And then a week or two later, she posted something on social media and she talked about how she can finally see it.
Yeah.
And the joy that came with that for her was huge. Like I talked to her about it afterwards.
Yeah.
So your results are going to vary and you never know how they're going to appear, but take joy in them when they come and keep pushing.
So give me your social medias. Where can people find you and follow you and support you? And
is it bad if I pull my phone out?
Nope,
I don't,
not at all.
No.
This one's mine. Yours is in your pocket, I think.
Oh yeah. Because I don't think mine are all under the same thing because I've built them all at different times. Well, Facebook, I mean, my last name is Talarizadeh, so I guess I probably should spell it.
Yeah,
that's a mouthful.
So it's Talarizadeh. I'm the only Justin Talarizadeh that exists on Facebook, so it's pretty easy to find me. Okay. So Instagram, it's Juice Talarizadeh. Forgot about that.
It's a good one. I like it.
I nicknames is what that came from. But yeah, Juice Talarizadeh on Instagram. And then I think it's probably the same on TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, at Juice Talarizadeh on TikTok. And then I post on Twitter. They're all the same things that I'm posting, but it's Juice Talarizadeh on Twitter too. Okay. I made it easy.
So that makes it easy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I thought they were all. I must have changed it at some point because I had like way different ones, and I was like, screw it.
I appreciate you, man. I really do.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you. One question: when are you doing your what you used to eat? When do you plan on working on that?
I don't have like a time frame. It's more about the cost.
Yeah.
Because that's going to cost a lot of money because my plan was to buy like everything that I used to eat in a day at the fast food places. So we're talking like close to probably $70 worth of food.
What are you going to do with it all?
Well, I'm not going to eat it, but my plan was basically to do like a little, like on one table, have like the before on one side and the after on the other. And then like do just comparisons of like just like the different timings of the food and the calorie differences and all that kind of stuff. But I don't have a time frame in mind, but it's going to be a little bit because I got to actually like have the extra money to go and buy that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But yeah,
looking forward to that.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Yes, sir.
Buddy.